Coming up on today's Philadelphia 76ers Now, which is presented by PrizePicks, we're going to take a look at several outlets' mock drafts, who they have the Philadelphia 76ers taking the 22nd overall pick in this year's NBA draft. And I think there's some good options here for the Sixers. Before we get into that, we're going to run through ESPN, Bleacher Report, and Yahoo Sports. Let me know down in the comment section right now who your favorite draft prospect is for the Philadelphia 76ers. And let's get into it, starting with ESPN, who has the Sixers taking Santa Clara forward Allen Graves, the freshman, who, look, a very interesting player. Now, of course, with these, it's always important to know who that the outlet passed on the Sixers could have had. Obviously, that always plays an impact on a potential draft grade, whether you like the pick or not. They passed on some guys we've talked about that I like: Isaiah Evans, Dalen Swain, Amari Allen, and Henri Veesaar, who we'll talk about as well coming up on today's show. Jimmy Woo of ESPN gave his reasoning for selecting Allen Graves, and here's what he had to say. Graves, one of the unique stories of this draft cycle, has gathered first-round momentum thanks in large part to his strong analytic profile, maintains the ability to return to college, where he's also in the transfer portal, making this one of the more interesting stay-or-go decisions as the combine approaches, while still somewhat polarizing among scouts. Not a top-end run-jump athlete, his skill level, feel for the game, and productivity have continued to pique NBA interest, giving him a pathway to rise into the top 20 with a strong pre-draft process. The Sixers successfully pivoted to a younger timeline this season with the duo of Maxey and VJ set to anchor the backcourt for the foreseeable future, take some pressure off of Joel. Adding younger front court depth should be a goal for the Sixers, something they might be able to address at this pick. Now, Graves' numbers won't necessarily jump off the board to just under 12 points a game, 6.5 rebounds, and a lower-ish level of competition, but did have some games against some better schools. Very efficient, though. 51 from the field, 41 from three as a forward, also nearly 2 steals a night. And the measurements at the combine the other day look pretty decent, right? Coming in just under 6'8", 225 pounds, a 7-foot wingspan, nearly 8-foot 11-inch standing reach. He is your traditional, true power forward here. He's not quick enough to be a wing, not big enough to be a true center. Now, the strengths to his game, really his game is all centered around like being a smart, aware player, because he does lack some athleticism, as we'll talk about, but great awareness and hands, especially on defense. You can see he's always in the right spot, always rotating well, makes a lot of plays getting in the passing lanes. Even if he's not like making a wow play with his athleticism, it's like, okay, he was where he needed to be, took a smart risk, got a steal. Also a good weak side rim protector. Like, not somebody, again, with his height, it's going to be like a typical rim protector, but he's very good at timing his jumps. Again, all in the smarts that he does have. A very good offensive rebounder, which would be big for Philadelphia. A really good pick and pop and spot up shooter as well at the 4 spot, and did show some passing skills in the post, although a little bit limited in that regard. So you want to see more of that to increase his skill set on the offensive end of the floor. But he does have his limitations, right? And most notably is the athletic limitations. He just, isn't a great side-to-side mover, not an explosive athlete or a vertical jumper. So that does limit him defensively. The shot a little bit low and slow as well, though it does go in at a very high rate. Not a movement shooter, though. I mentioned a good pick and pop and a good standstill shooter, but not going to be someone you have coming off screens, fading away. His feet got to be set, and it takes a second to get that shot off. Also did have some foul trouble at Santa Clara, but they were playing him at center a lot. He's not a center in the NBA, so that should get cleaned up a little bit. Really not an offensive creator at all either. He's someone who's going to play in the flow of the offense. He'll get some offensive rebounds. He'll be in the right places, but he's not putting it on the deck for you at all and getting you a basket. And so, look, for me, this is a guy I actually thought I was going to like before I dove into some of the tape and some of the analytics. But look, in today's NBA, it sounds oversimplified, but really, you have to be able to dribble, pass, shoot. Unless you're, a big center who has some other attributes. If you're going to be someone like him who is really a power forward only, again, he can't play center in the NBA. He's not going to play in the wing. He's a strict power forward. You got to be able to do some of these things. And the passing is TBD. He can't dribble. He can shoot, but not, off the dribble, things like that. So I don't really love the fit on this team. I'd be looking elsewhere if I'm the 76ers. Plenty more to get to. Still going to get to Bleacher Report's pick for the Sixers as well as Yahoo Sports. But as I mentioned off the top, today's show is presented by our good friends at PrizePicks, America's #1 sports picks app. Postseason basketball is here. Got some great games coming up tonight. No better way to catch it in the action than with our friends at PrizePicks. Super simple to use. All you do is put together a lineup of 2 to 6 player stat projections, pick more or less on those projections, and you can win yourself some big time cash. I love their new social feeds feature on the app. You can give me a follow on there at JChip. You can see my lineups before we talk about them on the show. You can also follow your friends on there as well. Copy lineup, super simple, just one click, and you can lock those in. Here's the lineup I'm rocking with tonight. Some big time game 6s, Detroit, Cleveland, Spurs, Timberwolves. I'm going Cade, more than 41.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Donovan Mitchell, more than 36.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And the stars go off in that one. Same thing with Anthony Edwards, more than 36.5 PRAs for him as well. And then Victor Wembanyama, more than 13.5 rebounds there to win $136.50. And right now, we have a great offer for new users. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. Again, code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups with PrizePicks. That link down in the comments section and description of today's show. Bleacher Report, going a little bit of a different direction here, although similar thought. Going with Cenac Jr., the young forward/center out of Houston. And Cenac, interestingly enough, was a top 6 prospect coming into the season, a 5-star recruit. And so he has the pedigree that you might look for if you're the Sixers. Bleacher Report also passed on some similar players as ESPN did, guys we have talked about on the show. Isaiah Evans, Dalen Swain, and Amari Allen. Also passed on Allen Graves, who, of course, ESPN did take at the 22nd overall pick. Here's Jonathan Wasserman, draft expert for Bleacher Report on Cenac. Despite flaws in his statistical profile, there will be teams willing to bet on a 19-year-old with a 6'10", barefoot size, 7'5" wingspan, 240-pound frame, shooting confidence, and motor. He'll be a popular reach candidate for teams looking to fill gaps and aren't concerned with finding high upside scores. And the Sixers kind of have their high upside scores already. They could be looking for someone to fill in those gaps in between. And could that be Cenac? Again, numbers won't jump off the page, but as a freshman at Houston, they are a team that traditionally has played a lot of their older guys, and this year they did kind of pivot to playing some more of their younger players, but had a good year. And you'll see he's a big who can space the floor. Now, the 33.3% three-point percentage, obviously not great, but I think he projects to be a better shooter than that at the NBA level. And again, his measurements just jump off the page, man. Like, for a guy who I think really is more of a traditional center than someone like, an Allen Graves we just talked about is really a 4 only. Cenac can absolutely and probably will play center at the NBA level. Again, over 6'10", 240 pounds. That wingspan is nuts at 7'5". Good standing reach as well. And some of his strengths, I think, make a little more sense for, his play style and what the Sixers are really looking for. The athleticism is off the charts, along with those measurables, as I mentioned. He has those things that you cannot teach, right? Which you can always build off of those, especially with a young player like this. His motor, his energy, he's always playing at 110%. Again, that's something that, it is not a typical skill, but it's one of those things you got to have, right? I don't want to see you taking plays off, things like that. It's going to fit well in the city of Philadelphia. A great rebounder on both ends of the floor. Again, exactly what the Sixers need, right? They've really struggled on the glass. He has that floor spacing ability, right? And not just from 3, as I mentioned. The numbers certainly could look better, but he's got a pretty smooth mid-range jumper as well. Shot 43% on non-rim 2-point shots. And you can see him, coming off little runarounds in the mid-range. Like, he can knock those down. And he's also switchable on the defensive end of the floor. So he can guard a little bit out on the perimeter. Now, obviously, at the NBA level, it's a whole new task than doing that in college. But he kind of has that ability with the athleticism to guard down low, guard the perimeter as well. Of course, every player has their weaknesses. And for him, pure rim protection is a question. This is more of a question, I'd say, than a weakness, because we shouldn't see him do it a lot at Houston. I think he has the ability to be a good rim protector, in the middle, but didn't really show it a lot. Wasn't really put in a lot of those positions. The slighter frame is a concern. He'll have to get a little bit stronger, but he has plenty of room to fill out that frame. Can be foul prone. Again, he's a very young player. And overall inconsistency as well for him. I mentioned the athleticism, a 41.5-inch standing vert at the combine. And so I think this is a much more natural fit with what the Sixers could use. He's kind of drawn some comps to a Khalil Ware type who I think it's turned into a very good player for the Miami Heat so far. That shooting stroke looks good with his size. He has some skill to put on the deck a little bit. And with the athleticism, man, that size and skill combo is exactly what you want in a modern day big. And I know you might be saying, oh, well, if he doesn't have the passing or dribbling ability, you said these players had to be able to dribble, pass, shoot. Well, for Graves, it's like he can't play center. So he's a little bit more in the wing. He has to be able to do those things. I think Cenac, is more of a traditional center with his floor spacing. Plus, he has the athleticism to make up for it, which somebody like Graves does not have. So I definitely like Cenac as a prospect a lot better than Graves. I'd be all for the Sixers going with him here at number 22. But maybe my favorite prospect of the three that we're going to talk about here today, somebody that I'm not going to lie, I didn't think I was going to like all that much going into it, but after going through his stuff, man, I really like who Kevin O'Connor took here for Yahoo Sports for the Sixers. Henri Veesaar, the center out of North Carolina, the junior, formerly at Arizona, was good there. Transferred to North Carolina, good there once again. I will say, Jaden Quaintance was on the board when the Sixers were up, and he did not take him. Quaintance is a player that, man, a lot of potential, was hurt all year for Kentucky. I'd be really interested if he does end up falling. Kind of mystery where he ends up going. Isaiah Evans, Joshua Jefferson, a couple of players we've also talked about that were passed up. Kevin O'Connor on Veesaar here, who could be a potential long-term replacement big man back up there for Joel Embiid. Sixers can't get through a playoffs without Embiid missing games. Finding better bigs needs to be prioritized instead of relying on Andre Drummond to launch corner threes, and plus a Dembona is awful. Veesaar is an agile big with actual shooting touch, connective playmaking, and baseline big skills with the ability to set screens and catch lobs. He also offers rim protection, is a locked-in help defender. In all three of his college seasons, he made a massive leap in production every year, but he's 227 pounds, so his lanky frame can get pushed around. Plus, he still hasn't fully defined his cornerstone skill. That's okay. In Philadelphia, though, he can anchor bench units when Embiid is healthy and potentially play a bigger role when he's not, while serving as a key figure alongside Maxey and VJ for years to come. And when you talk about production, one of the most productive players really in all of college basketball this season. 17 points and only 9 rebounds a night, just over a block a night as well. Shot it extremely efficiently. And again, he's a guy who can space the floor. Now, the volume isn't always crazy, but I believe in mid-January, he was shooting like 50% from three, ends up shooting just under 43%. Had a massive game against my Clemson Tigers in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament. My Tigers, though, able to win that game. But he dominated, man. And again, this is a guy who definitely more of a traditional center, right? We talk about Graves, who's more of a 4. Cenac, I think, has the ability to play 4 and 5 and be on the floor with Embiid because of his shooting potential. I think Veesaar also has some of that potential as well because of his shooting touch. 6'11", 227 pounds, a 7'2" wingspan, 9'3" standing reach. And it's interesting because, like, when you talk about what he does well, what he doesn't, there's not a whole lot to not like about his game. And he has some good strengths, right? Really good inside play finisher. He has athleticism as well to his game, and so he can throw down lobs. He finishes efficiently at the rim, but he pairs that with some tremendous floor spacing ability. And what's great about Veesaar is he's very smart with his shot selection. He's not going to pass up open looks when he gets him off the pick and pop, but he's not just going to chuck up threes either just because he can, right? He also is a very smart player that plays into his ability to facilitate, make reads, dish off some good passes to cutters as well, playing within the flow of the offense. Also a good rim protector, right? And again, we'll talk about the size concerns, but he showed an ability to block shots. And when my Clemson Tigers played him, Clemson is a very physical team, right? But Veesaar did a great job. I think he had like 28 and 17 against us. And just, again, overall, a very smart, high IQ player. And the weaknesses, it's like, yeah, the frame and strength is not where you want it to be. And so that's why there's some questions like if he can play 5 full time, right? I think he can. We see a lot of lighter centers in the NBA these days. And again, if he's not your starter, if he's behind Embiid for a little bit, you're totally fine with that. He can also play next to Embiid, though, as a 4. Some people have kind of described him as like a wing in a center's body. And I can kind of see that a little bit because he also has the ability to put the ball on the deck. I think more than any of the guys we've talked about, he's shown like a little bit, he doesn't have a bag or anything, but he can get downhill off a closeout, attack the basket, make a good pass. The defensive discipline, then a question. Some rebounding concerns, although that was really more last year, and coming into this year, he did quite a lot of that. But really, the big thing is the frame and strength. He is light, and so bigger centers in the NBA will be able to push him around, but he has the skill to be able to play off of that. And so look, the overall skill set here with Veesaar is super intriguing. Again, a guy I didn't really think I was going to like heading into it, but I ended up kind of falling in love with this game. I don't think he's getting quite enough attention. I think, obviously still a little bit away from the draft. He's a player who could end up rising, given what I've seen so far in his game. Some comps to a Naz Reid type of player, although I think, he has a little more size than Naz Reid, but I can see similar. I think Naz Reid has a little bit of a better handle and finishing ability, but they both kind of had that perimeter game, had that, 3-point jumper, and both a little bit undersized as well from a weight perspective. So I like Veesaar a lot, man, and I would also be in love with this pick if the Sixers did go this direction. So 3 guys we talked about from ESPN, Bleacher Report, and Yahoo Sports today: Allen Graves, Cenac Jr., Henri, Veesaar. You let me know which one you would like of the 3. I'm going with Veesaar, but of course, sound off and let me know why you picked who you did down in the comment section. Plenty more draft coverage to come leading up until the 2026 NBA draft and other offseason coverage as well. That's why you hit that sub button right here on the program to stay up to date with everything going on with your Philadelphia 76ers. I appreciate you all for checking in, watching today's show. We'll catch you guys next time here on 76ers Now.